Let's first look at the if statement, which is known as one-way if statement. What does it mean? It means when we have if, then in the bracket we have some Boolean expression. Boolean expression means an expression whose result or value is in Boolean. That means true or false. So we have this if and then the condition in a Boolean expression. Then we will have the executable statement that and finally it's done. So the rule is, if this condition is true, then we will enter into this block, execute these statements, and then we will get out of this block. If the condition is false, we will skip this entire block and go to the next part of the program. So with this, if we now look at our problem of negative radius, what can we do? We can actually compare if the value of radius is greater than or equal 0. That means we are actually comparing if our radius is 0 or positive. If it's true, then inside the block we are calculating the area and finally we are outputting our result. So in terms of flowchart, we can express this condition in a diamond shape. Okay, so inside the diamond shape we have the expression or the condition, and it will always have two branches coming out. One is the true branch and one is the false branch. So if the result is true, we will execute some statements. If the result is false, we will completely ignore the statements and go to the next section. Similarly, here inside the comparison, at the diamond shape we are comparing if radius is greater than or equal 0. If true, we are calculating the area and giving the output. If it's false, we are completely avoiding it and then go to the next part. Similarly, we have another type of if statement. Okay, let's look at that. So before we go there, let's look at some common mistake. One is, after the if keyword, we need to have this bracket which will enclose our condition. If we do not put the bracket, that is wrong. That is a syntax error or compile error. So we must enclose our comparison or condition inside the parenthesis. Next, if we have only one single statement to execute, we can put it inside a block. Even if we don't enclose it in the braces, only one statement will be associated with the if condition. So definitely when we have multiple statements to execute, we must enclose them in a block. But if we have a single statement, we can ignore the brace and the first statement will be associated with the if statement. But as a convention, I would suggest to always put everything, whether one statement or multiple statement, inside the curly braces. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And look at this example. So write a program that prompts the user to enter an integer. If the number is a multiple of 5, print high 5. If the number is divisible by 2, print high even. Since we need to take input from the user, so in our program we first need to import our scanner, our scanner, the scanner library. Okay. And then we need to declare our class. It's called simple if demo, and we need our main method where the execution will begin. Next, we will simply create our input, the scanner object, and then we will prompt the user. That means we will give the user the hint about what he or she needs to do. So we are prompting the user to enter an integer. Next, we need to actually take the input. So we need to have this input.nextInt, whose input we are going to put in this int number variable. Later on, we need to compare, since we need to check whether that number is a multiple of 5. So we have to check whether that number, when divided by 5, gives the remainder 0 or not. Okay. So if number mod 5 equals 0, so if it's true, we need to print high 5. So if it's true, we need to print system.out.println high 5. And then we again need to check if the number is divisible by 2. So divisible by 2, the numbers who are divisible by 2, that means when we divide them by 2, we get the remainder to be 0. So if number mod 2 equals 0, we need to print high even. Okay, so this is our program with simple if structure. Next, we see the two-way if statement. Two-way means when we have the expression result to be true inside the if, we will do something. If the result is false, we will do something else. Okay. So that's why we need to we use the keyword else. Okay. So for the diamond shape, now with the true branch, there are some statements. With the false branch, there are some other statements that we need to execute. So let's look at an example. So if our radius is positive, like before, we will actually calculate the area. But if the radius is negative, now we will do something else. And what we will do? We will simply put an error message that it's a negative input. Okay. So the last one is called multiple alternative if statements. That means beyond true and false, if we need to have some other conditions to check if something is false, what we can do? So if some score is greater than or equal 90, the grade will be assigned to be A. Else, we need to again check whether the score is greater than or equal 80 or not. If it's greater than 80, we need to assign B to the grade. Else, we need to again check, if not 80, whether the score is greater than or equal 70 or not. So altogether, we can write this as if the condition, else if the next condition, else if the next condition, and in this way finally an else the default. That means if everything is false, we need to by default put the grade to be F.